iOS devices. But when we get into the roundtable discussion, if you do have an Android device or Windows device, we're just going to talk about this as well. So if you want to pull out your mobile devices. My name is Yount. I'm with the Catawba County government, and I'm an application specialist. I'm sorry, not application specialist. I'm a program analyst there. So today I will be leading a session called Apps and Snacks, and the way this came about was, without getting into too much detail, some of our senior management wanted to know what the hottest apps were for productivity, for something to make their iPad more useful than just a cool toy, I guess you could say. Terry Bledsoe, our most recent CIO that just retired, I guess was trying to help in a department head meeting and introduce some cool apps to some of the department heads. And they thought, hey, this is kind of IT's job now to keep us informed of what the most cutting-edge apps are. So out of that came a training session, if you will, on what the most cutting-edge apps were. So rather than calling it a lunch and learn, which has been done to death, we wanted it to kind of be cool, so we call it Apps and Snacks. So people could bring their snacks or lunch to a lunch and learn type session. We wanted to call it Apps and Taps and have it at a local pub, but that probably would not have been such good PR for us. So we settled with this in our conference room at our government center. So basically, today I don't want this to be a training session. What IT really wanted it to be was more of a roundtable discussion. So I will not be a talking head up here for the next hour. I really want you guys to get engaged. I want you to be thinking about what are some of your favorite apps that you're using on your day-to-day workflow, and share those with the group, because I feel like we can all learn from each other, as well as I can maybe teach you a few things as well. So I have some apps here that I actually used during our session at Catawba County. I figured I would go ahead and get started off, and then if you guys have any questions, I can try to answer those with the apps that I am presenting. If you have any apps that are similar to the ones that I'm presenting, you feel like you want to jump in, feel free to do that as well.
I have a question. Did the apps and snacks that you had at your place, was it the same style of roundtable, or were you more of a training session at that point?
Yeah, the senior management really wanted more of a training type session, because they wanted it, the people that were invited were department heads at the beginning, because we wanted buy-in from the top down. We actually got an inventory of everyone that has connected their iPad or mobile device to our network. So we do have a list of those people. We will be inviting, we're going to try to do this quarterly. And so right now we just started out with department heads. It was kind of a mixture of technology folks and department heads, some folks from our county manager's office as well that attended the first session. So, but this is going to be more of a roundtable. I didn't really like the training session idea so much because it's an iPad. I mean, you should, I mean, it's probably one of the most intuitive, pieces of mobile technology that you can use. Or if you have an Android device or a Windows device, they're pretty intuitive. So I don't want to sit here and teach you how to use your mobile device necessarily, but maybe discuss how we can use these tools to have better workflow on a day-to-day basis. So the first one I want to get into is called Evernote. How many of you use Evernote? Okay, a few of you. So I traditionally have been using just the Notes app on my iPad because it syncs between I have a MacBook Pro, I have an iPhone, and I have an iPad. So it syncs all the way across that. The one thing that was really missing was the ability to take pictures. during that. So if I, for instance, this was a session that I just came out of, next door, effective communications with stakeholders. So I was going through taking some notes. I was able to include a picture right from my iPad. Actually, I took it on my iPhone. It synced from my iPhone to my iPad because I was taking notes on my MacBook Pro. So one really cool thing about this app is that it does sync across multiple platforms, does sync across multiple devices. This is the way I really see a lot of these apps going. Doesn't really matter what you're using it on. You just want to have access to that data. So for those of you that have used Evernote, how are you using it?
I've used it not necessarily organizing it. It's just a means of getting information, like you said, across the platform. So it's just one way of many, because you're going to have a lot of different apps that can do the same thing. But I just use it to get the information as quick as I can over to another platform. So.
I actually use Microsoft OneNote in a very similar way, although Evernote does have a plugin for the live scribe thing, so that you can take notes on conventional paper and PDF those and even OCR.
Yes. Yeah, and that's something that Evernote's really doing. Evernote is not just a standalone product. They're a company that have many different products, and they're integrating all those products together. So one of those being Yount actually makes a pen or a stylus. So for those of you that have those styluses with the really awesome, huge tips on them that recognize our handwriting also well, they really don't. Yount has a fine point pen now that you can actually write on your tablets with. And there's actually an Evernote version of that. So one thing that you can do in Evernote as well, you can tag. You can do tags. You can create notebooks. So it's really a way to organize your different notes from your meetings, your different social meetings, community meetings that you have. You can actually record audio in here as well. So if you want to record audio from a meeting, you can have that right inside the note, right along with your text and your pictures. So we're really seeing a lot of integration with Evernote. The next one here is Sched. It's actually an Evernote product as well. Say, for instance, we want to take a picture, or if we want to, let's use this picture. It's from a TEDx event we have in Hickory. So say we want to do some annotation on this picture. You can actually take a picture with your iPad and bring it into this as well. This is also an Evernote product. This could be useful for maybe field inspectors. Somebody taking a picture of something that's not quite right. They can draw an arrow to the place of interest, and then they can just see, there's a list of tools here on the side. They can actually type directly on it. You can draw arrows directly to a place. Draw multiple arrows. And then the kind of cool thing is that it integrates with Evernote. You can see you can save it into Evernote there. You can also iMessage it, you can email it, you can tweet it, you can Facebook it. So it's really a quick way to send an annotated photo. Is anybody using something similar to this now? What are you guys using for annotation, like on PDFs? Good reader? Yeah, that's what our board's using right now too. Do they like it?
It's just for me, I'm just a good reader. I think they're just consuming the PDFs and taking handwritten notes.
Handwritten notes, right? Right. So, and that's, yeah.
We're using iAnnotate.
Say it again?
iAnnotate.
iAnnotate. Is that an iOS app or?
It's really better on that iOS, but we've got the Samsung OneNotes.
Okay.
They've been a lot of our, well, 3 of our commissioners actually use it to take notes off the boards.
Okay. Yeah, so annotation is a pretty big deal, especially for, you know, people that are in a lot of meetings, that have a lot of paper usually. I hate when I go to a meeting, I get a stack of paper for, you know, meeting notes or handouts. I'm like, why don't you just email it to me? You know, I can do so much more with it. So it's really, you know, changing the culture of that and showing people the value in these tools to where they can both save money, they can save us from lugging around, you know, tons of paper that we're probably going to lose anyway. So say, for instance, we wanted to share this with Evernote. We could drop it in Evernote. It's sent. Hop back over to Evernote. It'll sync up. It should sync up. This is why you never do live demos when you're doing a session. Just kidding. Oh, here's another thing I didn't show you. So you have your different notebooks over here on the side for organizing. This is actually, since the other one didn't send, this is actually a screenshot that I did when I got here on Monday evening of the speed test of the hotel's Wi-Fi. It's pretty decent, actually. But you can see from Sketch, it's sent right over to Evernote. It just made it a note so that I can do whatever I want with it in there. Not sure why it's not something to know. Theoretically, it should sync. So, Pin Ultimate is another one, and it doesn't do very well with displaying up here. This is an app that you can actually draw on. It's basically just like a notepad. So you can just draw on it with your finger. You can draw diagrams. If your fingers are really good handwriting, if you have really good handwriting with your stylus or your finger, you can use that. This is also an Evernote tool. You can export to JPEG and send it to someone. You can type, you can paint, you can erase, you can cut, you can copy. Just like your basic tools there. You can insert photos, whether it be from your camera or from your photo library. So you can draw all over your pictures there as well. It's another annotation tool. Is anybody using something for handwriting? You're using OneNote.
OneNote doesn't do handwriting immediately, but the live scribe add-ons that Evernote does.
Yeah.
Basically jumping into Evernote and opening it.
Are you using that on your mobile device or on a tablet or?
The pen syncs to a laptop, and it loads to the cloud, and then put it there.
Gotcha. Cool. Anybody else using any handwriting on their tablets or mobile or? No.
My handwriting, it wouldn't help me out.
Yeah, my handwriting's not that great either. There's a few other apps that can do this sort of thing. Pin Ultimate is also an Evernote. UPad is one. You guys know the yellow pads, the legal pads that we also take notes on. Probably some of us still do take notes on. This is basically an electronic version of that. So you can see, you can choose your different kinds of paper there. What do I use? What I use on it? Graph paper, so on and so forth. Choose the yellow paper. So there's just like your regular note paper. The one thing that's kind of different about this app that I like, you can push this button in the bottom right-hand corner. You see the shield come up. So a lot of times if you're writing with a stylus, the butt of your hand might get on your tablet, and you might have all these little squiggly marks down here, right? And so what this actually does is, if you touch down here in this shaded area, it won't pick up anything. But if you're up here at the top, you can, I'm actually right. That's yellow and yellow, you can't really see that very well. But So when you're sitting there writing on your tablet, you can rest your hand on your tablet. So that's kind of a neat thing that UPad has. And then they just have a wide variety of tools. You can highlight, you can have different colors. It's pretty robust.
What did you say this one was?
This is UPad. And so if also you see in this area here, maybe you want to write smaller, say with that stylus with the big fat end on it. You can't get it real small. So you have this window here, you can actually write it, and it'd be smaller. Or you can pull this guy down, and you can write right there. You see, if you start up here, and you can write down here, but if you start down in the shaded area, it'll block it all together. So it might be another option for you. And it has all the same sharing functions as well. You can also click on the T at the top there, and you can type a note over it, kind of like comments in your Office products. This next one, paper. This one I downloaded because I thought it would make me feel like an artist, because I am not an artist. You did some today, didn't you? Which one is it? This one? I did not do these because I am not talented enough to do these. So she was doing these while we were in different sessions today. You want to take notes graphically. I know some people are very visual. That's a very good way of learning and retaining information. And so rather than, typing out something like I typically do, she is very much a visual learner. So she had some graphical representation. And there's several different pens and brushes and colors, and you can erase, and you can do all sorts of things. This is actually a free app, but there are in-app purchases for different colors and brushes and pens and things like that. Everything I've shown you so far is free.
Is that the UPad Lite?
Nope, this is
No,
paper.
before.
Oh, before?
Is it the Lite version? Because the other UPad was $4.99.
Yes,
It's
it
the
is.
Lite version.
The light version,
Thank
yes.
you.
So any questions about, note-taking apps or handwriting apps or anything like that? Anything anybody else is using in particular? What's that? No, not paper. This paper is only an iPad app. So if you search for it on your iPhone, you won't find it. It's Paper by 53. That's the official name of it.
I use an app called Jotnot, J-O-T-N-O-T. It's pretty cool because you can bring in Evernote, Google Drive, Dropbox, any of those, and you might have content in. And then it allows you the ability to fax. So you can take a picture of a document, square it up, and then fax it to a fax.
Awesome. That's cool. Everybody hear that? Jotnot?
Jotnot.
It's J-O-T?
J-O-T-N-O-T.
N-O-T. It allows you to take photos of documents or anything really, and then fax it. Right there from your device. Pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to get into something a little social here for a second. This is an app I came across called Mention, and it does exactly that. It will inform you every time something is mentioned that you put in the search criteria. For instance, and I haven't seen what's up there. That's a little sketchy, but okay. So I put the search term Catawba County in there. So every time someone tweets, Facebooks, blogs, puts on a website, the search term Catawba County, I will get an alert that Catawba County has been mentioned. Okay? It's good, it's bad, it's indifferent, it's kind of crazy some of the stuff people are saying, but it also allows you to kind of keep a pulse on what people are saying about you. because people are having conversations in the digital space that you might not be aware of.
Put your name out there.
And so if you're, you might use a tool called TweetDeck or something like that for Facebook and Twitter, but this really is kind of more encompassing as far as, web and social. And so basically you can put in, there's an initiative I'm part of called Innovate Catawba. It's an economic development initiative. Let's see what, it's probably just me and Innovate Catawba right now because we're just getting it started. So you can see we have a Twitter account, and then that's my Twitter account. We're basically trying to spread the good news about Catawba County, good things that are happening in our area. And so we're trying to push that out digitally. So you'll see every time that I hashtag Innovate Catawba or Innovate Catawba itself tweets something, it'll show up in that mention. So this might be useful for your municipality, for yourself, if you're worried about what people are saying about you, put your name in there. Put different things that you might be interested in. You might get a whole different set of information that you weren't expecting. Yes?
How is it store, or can you store that data long term? For example, if you wanted to store all the tweets for a month or a quarter.
Right, the question was how can you store this information, kind of have some retention of all this information coming through. I don't know that this app does that. I know for instance, for social media that we're using at Catawba County, we use a service called Archive Social, but that archives everything that we put out there. All the comments, all the status posts, pictures, videos, things like that. We can hook all our accounts to that. That archives our stuff. As far as retaining what other people are saying outside of our accounts, I really haven't found a tool to do that. Unless you're just screenshotting or copying and pasting, things that as you come across it.
Yeah.
But this is more just real time. You're taking a look. It's a stream. If somebody maybe has a question about a service or something like that, it's a good way to answer that quickly because instead of you going and searching for that, it's doing it for you and then bringing it to you. That's a good question. Any other questions about mention?
Please.
Yes.
Some of the business question. With that, the management of the accounts that you have, depending on the subject, is it handled by technology department or marketing, public information? Departments for that or not?
So for our different social media accounts, the question being, who manages our different social media accounts? Who's in charge of that? Yes, to answer your question. It starts with the PIO, the Public Information Officer, and then it gets filtered through technology as far as we have a social media policy. So if any department or entity would like to start its own official social media account, it does have to come through those checks and balances. And so we'll meet with them, we'll meet with the point people that want to start that. It does need to have department head approval. So just so that the people that need to know what's going on, knows what's going on. So for instance, DSS just came to me this past week saying, we finally want to start a Facebook page. There's been a lot of hesitation around that because possible negative publicity, negative comments and things of that sort. We also have an animal services page for our animal shelter. We post adoptable animals on there. We really thought that was going to be a PR nightmare. It ended up being one of the best things we've done. We haven't had hardly any negative comments on there. Please don't go out there and change that for us. But it's been really good. Rescue groups are going out there saying, hey, this dog's out here, can you guys adopt him? We've seen our adoptions go up, the amount of adoptions we're doing. So there are checks and balances. There are point people in each department that are content creators. That does not fall directly on the PIO as a PIO office. We do have PIO representatives in each department that meets with PIO on a regular basis. But if there's anything questionable as far as content going on, then that usually is addressed at the PIO or even technology level. Any other questions about social while we're on that? What are you guys using to monitor, for those of you that do social media, what are you using to monitor your social media accounts right now? Or are you monitoring your social media accounts right now? What's that? Prayer. Hopefully nobody says anything bad about you. There are some good tools out there. I mentioned TweetDeck, also Hootsuite are both good tools for monitoring social media. Your mobile apps are great. I don't know if you guys connect your company accounts to your phones or to your iPads. I know for me, our pages, there's a Facebook Pages app that will let you know if somebody sends you a message through the page or somebody makes a comment on one of your status updates. So that's a good way to just kind of keep an eye on what's going on your Facebook pages. But please be sure, if you're going to tweet something, be sure you're under the right account. Don't tweet something out on your county or city's account that's personal, because that does happen far too often. I'm going to skip to this one. How many of you use Flipboard? Do you like it? Yeah. So basically Flipboard is a magazine type app that connects to your different social networks, that connects to different RSS feeds, different news outlets, things of that sort. So say, for instance, we want to know something going on with technology. Seems appropriate. So this is the way it looks and feels. You kind of get a magazine type look. You could go out to TechCrunch, or you could go out to Mashable, and you could look through all these things as well. But this kind of puts it in a nice graphical user interface. You can flip the pages, just like that. You can click on an article, it'll load it up. You read it, you can share it down here. Jerry actually just shared a really interesting article about a new productivity app that came out. It came from, where did that come from?
I don't remember
I
now.
don't remember either.
You can go to Twitter and find out.
Yeah. At Terry Bledsoe. So that's basically Flipboard. You can have, kind of the cool thing that we did with Catawba County as well, with our commissioners. We gave all our commissioners iPads to do meeting annotations. We put all the agendas on there, but we also put Flipboard on there. We hooked them up with RSS feeds of county news that's going on. So in case they're not in the know, say they're not just at their computer or in front of their email all day long waiting for all the exciting news of Catawba County, they can go to Flipboard at their leisure, and they can kind of get a feel for what's going on, what news releases are coming out, things like that. You can also hook Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. It all puts it in a nice graphical interface for you. Flickr. So check that one out. Who's on LinkedIn? You guys use it?
Not a lot.
Do it?
The way is it they want you to use it, or just for social activity?
Okay, let me ask it this way. How do you use LinkedIn?
Oh, no.
I mean, really, it's Facebook for professionals. I mean, they have more intention than you can tell with what they're wanting you to go there and find out information. I'm a heavy RSS consumer, so pretty much I get all my LinkedIn information through RSS feeds. So it's hard for them to drive me into the app other than to accept a request or to make a request and actually somebody. So there's nothing curious.
Okay, yeah. Who else is using LinkedIn? How do you use it?
Just see who's checking my resume or who's checking new friends that have popped in LinkedIn, hiring officials. Typically, I do not respond a lot. I just look at it.
Okay, so you're a stalker then?
I was not.
Fair enough.
I will not deny.
They're ever sending email messages.
Forever sending email messages.
They are, I mean, I get them all the time.
Yeah, that is a pain.
It's a pain.
Yeah, they're really trying to push. I don't know if you guys noticed, in this past year, I don't know if you got this email or not, but you're in the top whatever percent, right? So they're trying to make you feel good about using LinkedIn, right? And so at that point, I actually kind of bought into that a little bit because I used to use LinkedIn in a way of if I had not shaken your hand and said hello to you face to face, I would not connect with you on LinkedIn. And I thought, well, hey, I'm in the top 10%. Maybe I can get in the top 5% if I start accepting more people, right? And so if you accept, or if you ask me to connect with you on LinkedIn, you will probably most likely get an acceptance within 24 hours. But you know, I think that's good too, because I've been in meetings where they'll say, "Hey, I've heard your name," you know, and then you can put that face with that name. And so, you know, people that do just look, you know, on the social network, you know, kind of find out a little bit about you before you're doing business with that person. I think that's a useful tool.
I've been on 2 interviews in the last year and a half, and in both cases, I had people on the interview panel reviewing my LinkedIn profile the same day of the interview.
Okay. So people are looking at you. Not sure how legal that is, as far as people, you know, researching your social profiles before your interview or during an interview process. It does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but so be careful with that if you are in a hiring type position, because there might be some legal gray area there. Yes.
I was just going to really mention that if you connect with one recruiter, they're in competition with each other, and all of a sudden you'll get a slew of recruiters out there. Well, that's going to make your profile go up, which then lots of people that you don't have a clue that you know, are then all of a sudden asking to be a part of your network.
Right.
So let's just throw that out there that if you're not interested, make sure that if you're looking for a position, you want to deny these recruiters.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because you know, complete strangers might be looking, you know, at your profile. I know I was a real heavy Facebook and Twitter user, not so heavy on the LinkedIn. I was kind of like, let's go out and take a look and see what's going on. It wasn't until probably in the past year or so, not because they sent me an email, but because they kept saying your profile is almost finished, that I actually updated my resume, you know, made sure everything looked nice and professional. Because really, you're representing yourself digitally. You know, you mentioned it's Facebook for professionals, and it's exactly that. So rather than Farmville and bit strips all over LinkedIn, you know, it's people posting information that you might find useful, you might not find useful. So when somebody does come to look at your profile, you want to be sure you're represented in the best way possible, because that might mean the difference between becoming employed in the future or not. And that goes for any social network, but especially LinkedIn, since that is kind of the place, the standard for professionals to be. So this is the LinkedIn app. They actually just redesigned it. You can see across the top there some navigation, some different groups I'm in, who's viewed your profile. Has anybody here bought the premium version or the pro version of LinkedIn, or is everybody just using the basic? Yeah. So they try to hook you, know, so-and-so from this industry viewed your profile. Click here to upgrade, and you can see who it is. Well, that might be useful. It might not be. It could just be that somebody's looking at, you know, it might be a recruiter looking at a lot of different profiles. I haven't made the jump to the premium version yet. For what I use it for, the basic version is fine by me.
Is that called N? I-N? You search for N?
Is that, it's
Linked.
linked, L-I-N-K,
Linked,
LinkedIn?
just as it is on,
Yep, just,
the logo though is I.
right. So for those of you that don't use LinkedIn, this is also a website where you can upload your resume and upload status updates about different things, just kind of like Facebook, but like you said, it's more for professionals. Who uses iTunes U? Or who's heard of iTunes U? Anybody? Does anybody use it? So basically what iTunes U is, I'll bring it up. So basically it's Apple's version of online classes, I guess you could say. You can download full-fledged classes from Harvard, from MIT. You can attend class basically there without getting the credit, of course. You can take the tests. You can see video from the professor teaching the class. You can connect with other folks in the class or that have taken it before. This one that I downloaded a few. I'm really into TED Talks. I love TED. They do a few there, education management, several others. National Geographic. Those are all videos, so you can kind of take a look at those. So if you haven't looked at iTunes U and you're an iOS user, I want to check that out. It's pretty neat. What do you guys use for managing Office documents?
Quick Office.
Quick Office? Regular Quick Office or Quick Office
Pro.
HD Pro? Did you pay? That's the paid version, right?
$19.
Yeah, they sold that to Google. And so now Google offers one. Now for those, who has Surfaces in here? Yeah, you guys don't have to worry about that. Because you can open up Word and Excel and whatever else you want to. So this is now a Google product, Quick Office. You can connect to your Google Drive account. You can open up Docs and XLSs and PowerPoint. You can do it all right here. This is a free version.
It is free.
It is. You can also connect to your Google Drive account, open up Google Documents as well.
Is it just opening for the free version? Or
Nope, you can open and edit. Let's do a new one. Let's open this one. There's a spreadsheet. So it does have a limited amount of tools. You don't have your full suite of tools like you do on your desktop version of Excel or Word, PowerPoint. But it does have your basic ones. You have bold, italicize, and like for Excel, you can do formulas. But yeah, you can certainly edit documents in here. For those of us that don't have Surfaces, this might be a nice, cheap option for you. That might be also useful. You can also print from here. So if you have an AirPrint printer, you print this out. Here's a Word document. Go through. So if we want to edit it, just tap on it. So, yeah, it's just like using basically a light version of Office. But for on the go, if you need to edit a quick document, it's a good solution.
And then it converts back if you want to open it up on your desktop to Dropbox.
Yep. Yeah, especially if you have it connected to a cloud service, you'll be able to open the exact same document, edit it.
What is it called again?
It's just Quick Office.
Just Quick Office.
Yep.
I use Office.
Office Suite. What do you get with that? Is that a free version or?
Well, there's a free version, but I bought it on sale for 99 cents on this day, so they checked it going in, shop it for 99 cents.
Were there any in-app purchases?
No.
So just straight as a buck?
Yeah.
Cool. I don't mind paying $1 for that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I got the pro version for about
Okay. Cool. Do you use it a lot?
I do. I use it as my viewer as well.
Okay. Does anybody use like Keynote or Pages or Numbers? The Apple versions of these? Terry, I know you do. Now, Terry, I know you do presentations, like you build presentations on your iPad sometimes as well. The cool thing about Keynote is that they also have an iCloud version now. So if you have an iCloud account, you can go to iCloud.com, sign in with your Apple ID, and you can you have access to Keynote, Numbers, and Pages, and you can build right there on your desktop. It'll convert over to your iPad app. So, for instance, if we wanted to create a presentation in Keynote, you could do it right there on the web, and then pull it up on my iPad and present to you guys. So that's kind of a cool thing. Or you could do it directly on your mobile device. Are you guys using Siri at all? Yeah. Siri's pretty cool. You can use it for dictation. That's what I use it most for. So if you're stopped at a stoplight, not driving, and you need to send a text message, you can hold down your home button, and it'll sound like that. And you can ask Siri to send a text message. You could ask her to remind you. Yes, it is. Sometimes she'll fuss at you. You can ask her to set a reminder for you on your calendar. It's a quick and easy way to do that. If you're taking notes, say you want to take a quick note, you can ask her to do that, or you can open up any one of your apps. Any app that has a keyboard on it, you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a microphone. You click on that, and that will enable Siri, and you can start talking. And it's basically just like dragon dictation. You guys remember that from back in the day? Well, it's still around, but it's kind of the same thing.
I was just curious, speaking of documentation, has anybody deployed iOS devices, social workers, or people that are doing transcriptions in the field, and said, here, do this with an iPad or an iPhone, and then do your transcription and dictation that way, as opposed to loading, dragging on laptop? I'm just curious.
So for transcription,
Yeah, I mean, just because it's a lot easier to have a device that already has a microphone built into it as opposed to instantly apps are very straightforward versus dealing with software licensing and things like that. So.
yeah, is anybody using that with software in the field, Siri? Or deploying that for your employees? No.
Well, they have a dragon dictation app.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you don't, you can,
Yeah, we
on
started
your
with our
iPad.
social services, where we, gave them iPhones, one method going through record and stuff.
Are they using it pretty regularly, or still time?
It's just depending on, ones that are more comfortable with it.
And that's a good point. One thing we talked about when we were thinking about this whole class at Catawba County, the conversation was had that our mobile devices are so personal to us, so that it's really kind of hard to even have a session like this, because you really it's more of a shotgun approach. Some of these apps might be useful to you. Some of them you might say, I'll never use that, because our devices are so personal to us. So actually, I had a guy from emergency services come up to me after our apps and snacks at Catawba County saying, can we do a session like this, but for emergency management personnel? Because there's apps that I use in the field that I think would be helpful for other folks, in EMS, Sheriff's Department, emergency management. Can we do one like that? And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And that's going to be a lot easier, because it's not such a shotgun approach at that point. It's going to be, these are emergency management apps or emergency service apps that we can, kind of target in a little bit more. So if you are thinking about educating your workforce about that, you might not want to look at such a generalized session or education, but really make it more personal for each department or subsets of departments. So we have about 10 minutes left. I have a few more up here, but I really wanted to hear kind of what apps you guys are using on a daily basis that, like, what's your favorite app? We call it our app pick. So what's your app pick? And what device and platform are you using it on? Just anybody.
I've got one that I'm having a lot of fun with. It's called If This, Then That, and it allows you to set up what are called recipes or rules. So if there's a trade in my fantasy football league, I can tell it to send me an SMS text rather than having to go get it. And you can pretty well set up any rule between apps at the top. If the temperature's going to be below 55, send me an SMS text.
Yep. Yeah, and for those of you using RSS feeds, that's a really good tool too. I've been using that for a while. I'll get a text in the morning telling me if there's going to be a shower, or not if I have to take a shower, but if there's going to be, weather, that afternoon.
If anybody that follows you on Twitter mentions you, put it in a Google spreadsheet for me.
Yeah, and they're always adding more services, which is what I love. So, and it's really easy to walk through. So it's .com. Go check it out. It's free.
It's a web interface, so you can do it just on a web page and set them up.
Yes.
You can do it free.
Yes, that's a great. Yeah.
I have one, it's not necessarily one I use every day, but it is one that's been very helpful to us. We use one called Teambox. It's actually a project management tool. You can go out, get an account. Now, we're not IT, or actually work as business analysts within the public utilities. Our IT department use, the project, Microsoft project, and they'll go through that. This is a lot less complex, and you can put it on your phone, and we use it on the iOS devices and of course, cross-platform. And when you go in there, it'll give you a project, pull up all your projects, pull up all the due dates and things for you and remind you. So that's a productivity app that we found to be very helpful.
What was that name again?
It's called Teambox, Teambox. And if you're doing project management, you don't really care. I mean, Microsoft Project's pretty in-depth. We looked at it and as a team and we said, we can get everything we want, and it's free. It's free. So that's a good one. One we're looking into, and I would challenge each of you may take a look at, when you're having meetings, is they make these polling apps now. And I put a few on here. I put a couple on here. One was iVote, the other one was Create Poll. And we're testing that now. We're eventually going to get polling devices for our meetings where we can start. So our people don't feel silly for responding, to a question. They can answer any way they want.
So for the polling, is that by text or is it in the app itself?
It's in the app. You can actually set up everything on the computer, so you're not sitting here trying to do this. And then when you send out the question, it fits into your PowerPoint, and then you can see the results in your PowerPoint.
That's cool.
There's a weather-related app you may find useful for your iPhone, a radar scope. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Radar scope?
Yeah, I mean, it's just for weather, but, severe storms, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing the amount of weather apps that are really surfacing now. Haven't seen that one, but I'll definitely check it out.
This is not your average weather app. It's tied into NOAA and also IMAP, radar data, and then Allison House is data aggregation.
Cool. What's this one? IP cam. She's spying on her kids.
Radar.
Very cool.
Okay.
What else? Who else?
Any reader thing.
Oh, yeah.
For RSS aggregation, I live in reader, whether it's phone or iPad or web. Push RSS. I don't want them to die. Because there seems to be a push to kill RSS, so.
Yeah.
All my life.
Long live RSS. Hear that. Who else? Favorite app? Anybody else favorite apps? Yes. One note? Okay. Right, got a couple OneNote fans. What do you got?
We use one called AD Help Desk,
AD help desk?
and they'll do Active Directory password resets, account unlocks, and query and show you locked accounts. And it's, in a lot of cases, even quicker than the Active Directory tools to get in there and reset an account or something.
AD Help Desk, what you doing?
AD help desk.
Yeah, the light version will let you do a single domain, but there's a paid version for $5 or $10 that lets you do unlimited domains.
And that's for what kind of device?
It's iOS.
iOS, okay, cool. AD might be helpful. No, we don't get any password reset tickets, do we? Anyone else?
You mentioned Evernote. You also use Evernote to capture web pages as well.
That's a good point. Do you use that in Chrome?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a Chrome plugin or extension that you can have for Evernote. It's called Web Clipper. It'll actually take a screenshot. Well, it does a couple of different things. It'll do a screenshot, and then you can draw all over it if you want to. You can also save links or save articles into an actual note in Evernote. And so you can do that directly from your browser, and it'll show it will sync. I promise, it does sync. It'll sync directly into your Evernote. That's a good. Anyone else?
Use it within Outlook as well.
In Outlook as well, yes, sure can. So if you want to clip emails, or,
Save the email.
you're a heavy Evernote user, you should be talking about it.
I'm just curious on password tools.
Password tools.
LastPass, KeyPass, is anybody using anything?
Yeah, we talked about that. I don't know if anybody was in some of the pre-conference sessions. We were talking about risk a lot in the CGCIO class. And we were talking about, having our passwords in a spreadsheet or on a sticky note, or, the multitude of passwords that we have to keep up with. Who's using a password management app? What are you using?
Splash ID.
Splash ID.
Splash ID Safe, I think is
Splash ID Safe. That's for iOS?
actually, it's all platforms and web.
Okay.
They've got it for BlackBerry, Android, everything. We can use it for years.
Is it free?
No,
Not free.
it's not free.
Costs money to keep it safe.
Yeah.
Who else is using the password? Yeah. KeyPass. That one's free, isn't it?
It's free, yeah, and you can sync it between whatever you're using. So you can always have your password.
Yeah, so it syncs across multiple platforms, KeyPass.
What I like about Splash ID, I don't particularly want all my passwords syncing across everything. I think that's a little bit too available. And so the way Splash ID works is when I get on I have it on my iPhone. When I get on my home network, then I can I can sync it to my home PC across my Wi-Fi. But I got it here, I got a backup on mine at home, but it's not all over the web. If I lose this, I can't go and just jump on any web browser anywhere and get to them. If I support it to you, this is not the solution for you. Actually, they can do that, but I choose not that option. It has lots of different options.
Sure. Yeah, there was one, I can't remember, I don't know if it was KeyPass or not. Someone was talking about being able to back it up to Dropbox, things like that. So, depending on how comfortable you are with your password.
You can do that with Splash ID. And years ago, I did that with an earlier version, but I wised up later and decided I didn't like doing that anymore. Decided that was a little too risky.
Very good. Well, sounds like you guys are using your devices well. I hope you maybe learned a few new apps today. And if you have any questions for me about the apps that I've shown you, feel free to drop me a note on Twitter. I'm @Yount, or you can find me around. Hit me up. Thank you all for coming today.